Hello, my name is Susanna McKay. I'm the JustServe specialist for the Atlanta North Coordinating Council, and I am pleased to spend a few minutes with you today to talk about professionalism as we work in JustServe. We know that when we go out there to represent this wonderful cause, it's kind of like being a missionary. We put on our pin just like they put on their badge, and we know that the words that come out of our mouth are important. We are representing a cause that means something and can make a great difference in people's lives. So we want to be doing the most that we can to put our best foot forward, right? But you may be wondering, what do I do? How do I get started? First thing is pretty easy. You're going to write to JustServe headquarters and get your email address. That just gives you a really professional, polished front as you are reaching out to organizations. It shows that brand is established and broad and robust enough to really support the volunteers that work with it. You're going to order your business cards, get your name on some swag so that when you go out to meetings, you can leave that card with other people, or brochures or folders, whatever it is that you feel is most appropriate, you can order that. The other thing to do is to start practicing your vocabulary. If you want to stand in front of a mirror and rehearse your little pitch, your elevator phrases that will help you as you begin those conversations. These are all things you can do before you call your first organization, before you have your first working group meeting. They're a great way to get started. We have to remember that as we're working in JustServe, this is really about relationships. We think so much about projects, but we're really developing relationships and impacting people. And so having that impression of professionalism and polish will go a long way toward opening doors that will mean you can better bless people's lives. It's a lot like Ammon. Ammon was the best JustServe specialist we've ever seen. He was exemplary in demonstrating positive and sincere intent. He acted with integrity. If he said he was going to do something, he did it, and he did it in a timely fashion. And he showed true investment in the people that he was serving with. And they knew that. They could feel that about him. They noticed it about him. So as we pattern our actions after Ammon, I think a lot of doors were going to open for all of us, because when we have that sincerity of intent and we act with integrity, good things happen. Think for a moment as if you were a customer and calling a customer service line, or you wanted to get help when you go into a store. How do you want to be treated? Obviously, respectfully, courteously, kindly, but it's really helpful if the person that's there to help you is prompt, polished, acts with purpose, but doesn't overpromise, right? That's a real key, because as we're growing JustServe in our areas, we can't promise more than we know we can deliver. So always be careful to give context to how this is a growth process, and that you are there to try and make their jobs easier and make their jobs more effective. Communication is a huge piece of what we do. Every day, you're going to be communicating with organizations, with volunteers, with members of your stake, with members of your community. So be friendly, respectful, always accurate. Really important to emphasize using public-facing language. So we're not going to use church lingo. We're not going to talk about our bishop and our stake and my visiting teacher or my ministering sister. We're not going to use those phrases. We're going to use phrases and expressions that make sense to our community. Another thing that I'll touch on that you may be a little bit worried about: how do you communicate through your actual presentation of yourself? When we go to church, we dress one way. The men typically have suits, ties, things like that. Women are in dresses. You don't have to dress that way when you're representing JustServe. Think business casual. So for men, maybe a little bit more dressed down than you would at church. For women, maybe a little bit more tailored. Whatever you feel comfortable in, whatever you have is great. But just think that that's a slightly different setting, so you can dress a little bit differently too. Website content is a really important thing to think about, because that's what's going to convey and invite our volunteers to get involved. When you're helping organizations draft their project listings, some organizations have a lot of experience with this and will do a really thorough job. Others, not so much. So help them see, create and craft that language that will convey their mission and their intent. Help them make it professional. Edit it for grammar, for punctuation, capitalization. Those things matter. They make an impression. And keep it warm and inviting. You don't want to overwhelm your volunteers with like pages and pages, tons of paragraphs of description. Keep it brief but thorough, so that volunteers will feel the purpose behind that project without feeling overwhelmed. And always, everything we do, let's remember who we're representing. We are trying to spread the light and love of our Savior Jesus Christ. And he did that on a one-to-one, caring, focused basis, just like Ammon, who was also there with intent and integrity. We can do the same thing. We can be professional in our words and our actions. And this is not something where you have to feel inadequate. The Lord will magnify your efforts. And I know that as we try our best and we act in faith to remember that this is a brand, a cause, a movement that we are trying to represent in the best light possible, we will be blessed for our efforts, and the Lord will open those doors that we need opened. Wish you all the best.